discoveries to Ben Franklin's name. Some of his inventions we're still using today. That's a long time to be still using one man's ideas. Ben Franklin must have had some very good ideas. So we have Franklin as an inventor, as a printer, and you guys remember the kite experiment? Flew the kite in the storm. He proved that lightning was electricity, so he's a scientist. So we have Franklin as an inventor, as a scientist, and I think it had something to do with starting our country. As a founding father, Ben Franklin is so famous. He's the only one that can say this. Not even George Washington can say this. Ben Franklin signed the 4 pieces of paper that started our country and gave us our freedom. What are those 4 pieces of paper? I bet you guys know at least a few of them. Oh, yes, the Declaration of Independence. Good job. Give the girls a shot at the second one. Big C, not the Declaration, but the Constitution. Franklin worked on signing the Declaration and the Constitution. How about a hint? Didn't we have a war to start our country, the Revolutionary War? How do you stop a war besides winning? Certainly not calling the French. Treaties, yeah. There were actually 2 treaties with the Revolutionary War. Ben Franklin signed both. The second one is the Peace Treaty, the Treaty of Paris that ends the war so we can get started as a country and start paying our taxes, which is what our life is now all about. Then the first treaty was actually the Treaty of Alliance that got the French into the war. We used them to beat up the English, which was really good because they don't like being the English. Then he had when they won the war, then they signed the Peace Treaty. With that long list of famous things, Ben Franklin still wanted us today to remember him first and foremost as a printer. And I know that because I read his will. Of course, you guys are now old enough to know what a will is. A will is when you get your parents' stuff. I'm going to watch your parents' stuff one day. You can admit to it now. The house the car is for, and then who gets all of the stuff? When I read Ben Franklin, you don't seem impressed. Oh, they put another guy who said, etc. So his first thing on his list of famous things is printing, and here's why. Ben Franklin learned to be a printer when he was a young boy. Now back then, how you learn things is different than today. I mean, we're lucky today. You go through school, work up to high school, graduate from high school. From high school, where do you go? University. College. Well, back in Ben's day, college was really for 3 groups of people. You would be going to college if you want to be something like a doctor, a lawyer, or maybe the preacher, the minister at the church. If you weren't going to be something like that, you didn't go to college. You served an apprenticeship. Now, the apprenticeship is a process reserved only for the boys, not for girls. No girls. Boys, at the age of 14, that's when your father would bring you into the kitchen, sit you down at the table, look you squarely in the eyes, and then your father would tell you what you're going to be for the rest of your life. These were beautiful days back then, beautiful days. Your father would say something like, son, your mother and I have decided you're going to be a brick maker. But your response to your father was, you have to say anything other than, yes, sir. Your father probably give you a little physical advice. Oh, you've had practice. I like that. You have to agree with your father's wisdom. He's been looking at your life now for 14 years. He knows what you're good at. Bricks. Or he's going to punish you for being a little irritating the last few years. Now, you guys haven't been irritating to your parents or your teachers at all, have you? Oh, you little angels descended from heaven. Your halos of slip. Oh, then your father brings out a long sheet of paper, and you better hope you can read. See, this is a contract, a colonial contract. So you're getting a little bit nervous. A little bead of sweat is beginning to roll its way down your 14-year-old colonial cheek as you begin to read your contract. And it says, this indenture witnesses that. What's your name? Milligan. This indenture witnesses that Milligan has put himself in by these presents, does voluntarily. Respect someone. Yes! Voluntarily. And of his own free will, give his services to the brickmaker as an indentured servant until his 21st birthday.
Oh, God.
Oh my goodness, free will.
Oh, you think about the deal this was for parents. You get rid of them in the teenage years, boom. Come back paying their own taxes, get their own house. It's great. Now the key word in your contract here, Milligan, was voluntarily. You see, your father voluntarily makes you sign this. Doesn't that sound voluntary? Maybe not. And then he signed, then you had to go live and work with a brickmaker until your 21st birthday as an indentured servant. And we know what a servant is. The word indentured in front of that simply means you get to be the servant for so many years, age 14 to 21. How many times is that there, Milligan?
Huh?
Say 7. 7 years, Milligan says. 7 long years. Well, that's a long time to become somebody's servant, especially voluntarily.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the way he treated you, you try to run away. And if he finds you, this paper gives him the right to throw you in jail for about a week just to teach you a lesson. How much would you get paid there, Milligan? 7 years of hard work. Besides all the bricks you've wanted in life, what would you get? Gotta get something. And what Milligan receives is food, clothing, shelter, and knowledge. Milligan learns how to make really good bricks, otherwise known as Legos. Then then the brickmaker gives you the equivalent in our use money, maybe about $200 or $300 in your pocket, a new set of Vans or Skechers, and then he kicks you out the front door. Then you go out there and you get a job making bricks and getting paid for it. Girls, are you feeling left out yet? You girls want to be indentured servants too?
No.
Oh, not that your life is any easier, but we boys have always had it pretty hard. Right, boys? Ours is a hard life, but we're going to rise to the challenge. That will never get you a brownie point. Or a wife, now that you're looking. Learned that one the hard way. She's still teaching me. Last lesson was this morning. That was fun. Now, Ben Franklin signed his contract not at the age of 14 like his friends, but at the age of 12. Because at the age of 11, he made a little mistake with his dad. How many of you are 11 or almost 11 or were 11 one day? Nobody in Arcadia was ever going to be 11. That's beautiful. At age 11, Ben Franklin looked up at his dad with the usual attitude of an 11-year-old. We know what that is. All too well. He said, Dad, I'm 11 years old now. I think it's time I run away from home and become a sailor. What do you think, Dad? Boy, his dad did not like that idea. Being a sailor was actually one of the nastiest, most dangerous jobs of the 18th century. His father already lost one of his other sons to the sea, never to see that son again. He went for the long swim. So he didn't want Ben to go, so he pulled him aside and said, Ben, how does a 9-year contract sound? I know your friends only get 7. You get 9. This way you don't run away from home. Now, it's bad enough being a servant to anybody, let alone who it was. Ben Franklin became a legal servant to his older brother, James. He's the printer. Picture this. Ben is only 12. His brother, James, though, is 21. James was in England, learned to be a printer there, came home to his family in Boston, brought home a printing press, a really big attitude, and then his father gave him his younger brother as his legal servant. Now, that's when your father says he loves you. And welcome home. What a gift. How many of you would like to be a servant to an older brother or sister for so many years? How many of you like to be the older brother or sister, get a younger brother or sister as your legal servant? Oh, let's be a little honest here. I mean, please. Well, this actually worked out really well for Ben. Obviously, if your father tells you one day you're going to be your brother's servant, that's probably not the best day of your life, is it? Did you know for young Ben, this is one of the greatest days of his entire life? And he had a great life. You already know that. How could that be? By that one decision of his father. Totally changed the direction of his life. I mean, usually you had to do whatever your father did. What did Ben Franklin's father make? What was his job? Candles and soap. Do you guys remember how they made candles back then? You take a wick, you dip it into a pot of hot liquid boiling animal fat. Oh. Like the white stuff that floats around your turkey there about 9 o'clock at night? Oh, I paint a picture will last the entire weekend. What's for dinner tonight? Turkey. I mean, it'll be turkey tonight.